What if the health crises we see today, the skyrocketing rates of obesity and chronic inflammation, could be traced back to 4 common items in your pantry? The shocking truth is that the root cause is often sitting right on our dinner plates, disguised as everyday food. Food choices are the most powerful medicine we have. Today, we're going to expose the science behind why they are so detrimental to our well-being. For each problem, we'll discuss practical, accessible solutions and healthier alternatives. So get ready to look at your kitchen in a whole new light. Let's talk about sugar. We're talking about the refined, processed, and added sugars that have infiltrated our food. It's in your coffee, soda, and hidden in unexpected places. The average American consumes a staggering amount of added sugar. Our bodies weren't designed for this much sweetness. It overwhelms our metabolic systems. Instead, you'll find a long list of aliases. There are over 60 different names for sugar. One concerning form is high fructose corn syrup, or HFCS. Fructose is metabolized almost exclusively by the liver. Consuming large amounts sends a sugar bomb to your liver. Have you ever wondered why it's so hard to just have one cookie or stop drinking soda? Consuming sugar triggers dopamine release in the brain's reward center, like with drugs. This creates a craving cycle reinforced by blood sugar spikes and crashes. Brain scans show sugar cravings mirror drug addiction. The food industry knows this, engineering products for maximum pleasure. Breaking free requires effort and may cause withdrawal, but you'll stabilize your energy and reclaim your health. The connection between sugar consumption and the twin epidemics of obesity and type 2 diabetes is perhaps the most well-documented and devastating consequence of our modern diet. It's a direct cause and effect relationship that plays out in the bodies of millions. When you constantly bombard your system with sugar, your cells can become resistant to the effects of insulin. Think of it like a key, insulin, trying to unlock a door, which is the cell, to let sugar in for energy. With insulin resistance, the lock becomes rusty and stiff. The key still fits, but it's much harder to turn. In response to this resistance, your pancreas works harder, pumping out even more insulin to try and force the cells to respond. For a while this might work, but honestly it's an unsustainable strategy. This state of high insulin levels, known as hyperinsulinemia, promotes fat storage, particularly visceral fat, the dangerous fat that accumulates around your organs. This is why high sugar intake is so strongly linked to weight gain, especially abdominal obesity. It's not just about the calories, it's about the hormonal chaos that sugar creates in your body, programming it to store fat. Eventually, the pancreas can't keep up with the demand. The beta cells that produce insulin can become exhausted and start to die off. At this point, blood sugar levels begin to rise uncontrollably, leading to a diagnosis of prediabetes and eventually full-blown type 2 diabetes. This is a serious systemic disease that can lead to devastating complications, including heart disease, kidney failure, nerve damage, and even blindness. It's a cascade of metabolic failure, and it all begins with that initial step of overwhelming the body with more sugar than it can handle. The tragedy here is that type 2 diabetes is, in the vast majority of cases, a preventable and even reversible condition. By drastically reducing or eliminating added sugars and refined carbohydrates from the diet, many people can restore their insulin sensitivity, lower their blood sugar levels, and reduce or even eliminate their need for medication. It requires a fundamental shift in how we view food, not as a source of fleeting pleasure or convenience, but as the primary tool for managing our body's intricate hormonal and metabolic systems. The power to prevent this disease lies on our plates. While the link between sugar and diabetes is widely known, its role in fueling another one of our most feared diseases, cancer, is gaining more and more scientific attention, and it's deeply concerning. Cancer cells are notoriously greedy. They have a ravenous appetite for energy to fuel their rapid growth and division. And what is their preferred fuel source? Glucose. In fact, cancer cells can consume glucose at a rate 10 to 50 times higher than normal healthy cells. This phenomenon is known as the Warburg effect. When you consume a high-sugar diet, you are essentially providing a feast for any potential or existing cancer cells in your body. The resulting high blood sugar and high insulin levels create an environment highly conducive to cancer growth. Insulin itself is a powerful growth hormone that can signal cancer cells to divide and proliferate. Furthermore, the chronic inflammation that is often a byproduct of a high-sugar diet can also contribute to cancer development, as inflammation can damage DNA and promote the growth of tumors. This isn't to say that sugar directly causes cancer in every case. Cancer is a complex, multifactorial disease. However, the evidence is becoming overwhelmingly clear that a high-sugar diet creates a metabolic environment that is a powerful promoter of cancer growth and progression. Some researchers have even referred to sugar as a fertilizer for cancer. The PET scan, a common imaging tool used to detect cancer, works on this very principle. A radioactive glucose tracer is injected into the body, and the scan highlights areas where cells gobble up the most glucose, the tumors. Understanding this connection gives us another powerful reason to take control of our sugar intake. By stabilizing our blood sugar and insulin levels, we can help create an internal environment that is less hospitable to cancer. It's about starving the cancer cells of their favorite food source and reducing the hormonal signals that encourage their growth. This is not a replacement for conventional cancer treatments, but it is a powerful, complementary strategy that addresses the underlying metabolic conditions that allow cancer to thrive. It's another way that dietary choices can have a profound impact on our long-term health and resilience. Alright, we've gone deep into the science of why sugar is so detrimental. The evidence is clear, but it can also feel overwhelming. The good news is that you don't have to be a victim of the food industry's sweet deception. The first and most important step is to become a food detective. Start reading the labels on everything you buy. Don't just look at the sugars line on the nutrition facts. Scan the entire ingredient list for those 60+ hidden names for sugar. If sugar, in any of its forms, is one of the first few ingredients, it's a major red flag. The next step is to target the most obvious offenders. The single biggest source of added sugar in the modern diet is sugar-sweetened beverages. This includes sodas, fruit juices, sports drinks, and sweetened teas and coffees. Eliminating these liquid calories is the fastest and most effective way to dramatically reduce your sugar intake. Swap them out for water, sparkling water with a squeeze of lemon or lime, or unsweetened herbal teas. You'll not only cut out a huge amount of sugar but also improve your hydration. Now let's talk about cooking and baking at home. This is where you have complete control. Instead of refined white sugar, you can experiment with healthier, whole food alternatives in moderation. Things like pureed dates, mashed bananas, or unsweetened applesauce can provide sweetness along with fiber and nutrients. For a more direct swap, natural sweeteners like pure stevia or monk fruit extract can be great options as they don't raise blood sugar levels. Learning to cook your favorite meals from scratch is a powerful way to deprocess your diet and kick sugar out of your kitchen. Finally, be patient and compassionate with yourself. Reducing sugar intake is a journey, not an overnight switch. Your taste buds will need time to adapt. At first, things might taste bland, but over a few weeks, you'll start to appreciate the subtle, natural flavors in whole foods that were previously masked by overwhelming sweetness. Focus on adding more healthy foods, lean proteins, healthy fats, and fiber-rich vegetables, which will help stabilize your blood sugar and reduce cravings. Every small step you take is a huge victory for your long-term health. Our second food to investigate is just as common as sugar, and in many ways just as damaging refined white flour. Think about how many foods are built upon this single ingredient: bread, pasta, bagels, crackers, cookies, cakes, and pastries. It is the very foundation of the modern Western diet. But what is it really? White flour starts its life as a whole wheat kernel, a package of natural goodness containing three parts: the bran, which is the fiber-rich outer layer, the germ, which is the nutrient-packed core, and the endosperm, the starchy part. It's a perfect food, designed by nature. The refining process, however, is an act of nutritional vandalism. To create the soft, fluffy white flour we're all familiar with, manufacturers strip away the two most nutritious parts, the bran and the germ. Why? Because the oils in the germ can go rancid, and the bran makes the texture coarser. Removing them gives the flour a finer texture and a much longer shelf life, which is great for industrial food production, but terrible for human health. This process removes the vast majority of the fiber, B vitamins, healthy fats, magnesium, iron, and other essential minerals. What you're left with is the endosperm, which is almost pure starch. This stripped-down, pulverized starch behaves in your body in a way that is remarkably similar to pure sugar. Because all the fiber has been removed, it is digested and absorbed into the bloodstream incredibly quickly. This causes a rapid and dramatic spike in your blood sugar and a corresponding surge of insulin, just like we saw with sugar. In fact, some white breads can have a higher glycemic index than table sugar itself, meaning they raise your blood sugar even faster. So, when you eat a slice of white bread or a bowl of regular pasta, You're not just eating a nutritionally bankrupt food, you're essentially eating a product that your body treats like sugar. It contributes to the same metabolic chaos: insulin resistance, weight gain, energy crashes, and an increased risk for type 2 diabetes. The great nutrient robbery that happens at the factory results in a metabolic assault on your body. We've traded nourishment for shelf stability and a soft texture, and our health is paying the price for this poor exchange. The story of white flour gets even worse when you look at what happens after the stripping process. The naturally yellowish endosperm isn't considered aesthetically pleasing enough for consumers who have been conditioned to expect pure white bread. To achieve this pristine white color, the flour is subjected to a chemical bleaching process. Agents like chlorine gas or benzoyl peroxide are used to whiten the flour. Yes, you heard that right. Chlorine, the same chemical used to disinfect swimming pools, is used to treat a food product. This bleaching process does more than just change the color. It further damages the flour, destroying what little vitamin E might be left and creating a byproduct called alloxin. Alloxin is a toxic chemical that is used in laboratory research to induce diabetes in healthy animals like rats and mice, by destroying the insulin-producing beta cells. While the amount of alloxin in bread is small, the question we must ask is why we are consuming a food that contains any amount of a known pancreatic toxin, especially when we eat it day after day. Recognizing they had created a nutritionally void product, food manufacturers and governments decided to enrich white flour. This sounds like a positive step, but it's a clever marketing tactic that masks a deeper problem. Enrichment means they add back a handful of synthetic vitamins, typically iron and a few B vitamins like niacin, thiamine, and riboflavin. However, they are adding back only a fraction of the dozens of nutrients that were originally stripped away, and they are often in a synthetic form that is not as easily absorbed by the body as their natural counterparts. This enrichment is like someone stealing $20 from you and then generously giving you back a single dollar and expecting you to be grateful. It allows manufacturers to label their products as enriched and gives a false impression of healthfulness, while the fundamental problem remains: you are still eating a highly processed, fiber-deficient, blood sugar spiking starch. It's a nutritional Trojan horse. It looks harmless, even beneficial on the label, but it carries the same metabolic risks as before, just with a few synthetic vitamins sprinkled in. Our gut is home to trillions of microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, and viruses collectively known as the gut microbiome. A healthy, diverse microbiome is absolutely essential for overall health, influencing everything from our digestion and immune system to our mood and mental clarity. These beneficial gut bacteria thrive on one primary food source: fiber. Specifically, the prebiotic fiber found in whole plant foods like vegetables, fruits, legumes, and importantly, whole grains. This fiber is what they ferment to produce beneficial compounds like short-chain fatty acids. When you consume white flour, you're effectively starving your beneficial gut bacteria. Since the fiber-rich bran has been completely removed, there is nothing for your good gut bugs to eat. A diet high in refined flour and low in fiber can lead to a state of dysbiosis, where the balance of your gut microbiome is thrown off. Harmful, pathogenic bacteria can begin to overgrow, while the populations of beneficial microbes shrink. This imbalance can lead to a host of digestive issues, including bloating, gas, constipation, and discomfort. This dysbiosis has consequences that extend far beyond your digestive tract. A healthy gut lining is a strong barrier, selectively allowing nutrients to pass into the bloodstream while keeping out toxins and undigested food particles. The short-chain fatty acids produced by healthy bacteria help to fuel the cells of this barrier. Without enough fiber, this barrier can weaken and become more permeable, a condition often referred to as leaky gut. This allows inflammatory molecules and toxins to leak into your bloodstream, triggering a system-wide immune response and chronic, low-grade inflammation. This chronic inflammation, originating in a gut starved of fiber, is now understood to be a root cause or contributing factor to a vast array of modern diseases. This includes autoimmune conditions like rheumatoid arthritis and Hashimoto's, skin issues like eczema and acne, mood disorders like depression and anxiety, and even neurodegenerative diseases. It all traces back to the health of our gut, which in turn is directly dependent on the food we provide it. By choosing fiber-deficient white flour over whole grains, we are undermining the very foundation of our health. Beyond the gut, white flour can contribute to inflammation through several other mechanisms. As we've discussed, its high glycemic nature causes rapid blood sugar spikes. Research has shown that these acute spikes in blood glucose can directly trigger an inflammatory response in the body. They can increase the production of inflammatory cytokines, signaling molecules that promote inflammation, and generate oxidative stress, which is basically an excess of damaging free radicals that can harm our cells and DNA. Every slice of white toast or bowl of pasta can honestly be seen as a small inflammatory event. Furthermore, for a significant portion of the population, the proteins in wheat, primarily gluten, can be a major source of inflammation. For individuals with celiac disease, gluten triggers a severe autoimmune reaction that damages the small intestine. But beyond celiac disease, there is a growing recognition of non-celiac gluten sensitivity, a condition where people experience a range of symptoms, including bloating, brain fog, joint pain, and fatigue, after consuming gluten, even without the classic autoimmune markers. For these individuals, white flour is a direct inflammatory trigger. Even for those who don't have a specific sensitivity to gluten, the modern wheat from which most white flour is made can be problematic. Today's dwarf wheat has been extensively hybridized over the last century to be hardier and produce higher yields. This modern wheat contains different proteins and a higher concentration of gluten than the ancient grains our ancestors ate, like einkorn or spelt. Some research suggests that these modern wheat proteins may be inherently more inflammatory and difficult for our bodies to digest, contributing to low-grade inflammation even in people who are not considered sensitive. When you combine all these factors, the blood sugar spike, the potential for gluten sensitivity, the problematic proteins in modern wheat, and the starvation of our gut microbiome, it becomes clear that white flour is a profoundly inflammatory food. Chronic inflammation is the smoldering fire that underlies nearly every chronic disease, from heart disease and arthritis to Alzheimer's and cancer. Choosing to reduce or eliminate white flour from your diet is one of the most effective strategies for quenching this inflammatory fire and protecting your body from its devastating long-term effects. So, how do we break free from the grip of white flour? The journey begins once again with awareness and label reading. The key is to look for the word whole. When you're buying bread, pasta, or crackers, the first ingredient should be 100% whole wheat or 100% whole grain. Don't be fooled by deceptive marketing terms like multi-grain wheat flour or made with whole grains. These often mean it's still mostly refined white flour with a tiny amount of whole grain thrown in for marketing purposes. The word whole is your guarantee. The world of whole grains is vast and delicious, so don't be afraid to explore beyond whole wheat. Ancient grains like quinoa, which is technically a seed but used as a grain, are complete proteins and naturally gluten-free. Other wonderful options include brown and wild rice oats, barley, buckwheat, and millet. These grains retain their bran and germ, providing the fiber, protein, and micronutrients that were stolen from white flour. They offer a slower release of energy, keeping your blood sugar stable and your gut bacteria happy. For baking, you can make direct swaps that will dramatically boost the nutritional value of your favorite recipes. Instead of all-purpose white flour, try using 100% whole wheat pastry flour for a softer texture, or experiment with other flours like oat flour, almond flour, or coconut flour. Almond and coconut flours are particularly great options as they are low in carbohydrates, high in fiber and healthy fats, and naturally gluten-free, making them excellent for blood sugar control and reducing inflammation. They do behave differently, so you may need to find specific recipes or experiment with ratios. Ultimately, the goal is to shift your plate's foundation away from refined starches and towards whole foods. This might mean enjoying a smaller portion of whole grain pasta and piling on more vegetables and protein, or swapping your morning toast for a bowl of oatmeal with berries and nuts. It's about changing the proportions and prioritizing nutrient density. By consciously choosing these wholesome, fiber-rich alternatives, you are rebuilding your diet on a foundation of nourishment, not just empty inflammatory calories. Let's discuss processed foods, the items filling our grocery store aisles. For busy families, these pre-packaged meals offer convenience. But what are we trading for that convenience? We're talking about ultra-processed foods with many ingredients, often unrecognizable. These are scientifically engineered products designed for maximum palatability. Consider a potato transformed into a chip, stripped of nutrients and loaded with unhealthy additives. We're consuming food products, not actual food, impacting our health. These foods bypass our body's signals, engineered with salt, sugar, and fat to be irresistible. Understanding this is the first step to reclaiming our health. Let's look at what's really inside these packaged goods. Beyond salt, sugar, and fat, you'll often find a long list of artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners, and preservatives. These additives are included to make the food look more appealing, taste more intense, and last on the shelf for months. These chemical additives serve the manufacturer, not the consumer. Over time, a constant barrage of these chemicals can place a significant burden on our detoxification pathways. We're consuming a cocktail of them every single day, and the long-term cumulative effect of this chemical mixture is an area of growing scientific and medical concern. Artificial sweeteners, for example, can disrupt the delicate balance of our gut microbiome. Flavor enhancers like MSG are designed to make us crave more, contributing to overeating and weight gain. Our bodies evolved to recognize and digest whole, natural foods, not a daily onslaught of synthetic dyes, preservatives, and emulsifiers. The convenience of these foods is tempting, but it's crucial to understand the hidden biological cost of the chemical cocktail they contain. Processed foods are often calorie-dense but nutrient-poor. They offer very little in terms of essential vitamins, minerals, and fiber. Your body's cells can be starving for nourishment. When grains are refined, the bran and germ are stripped away. When fruits are turned into sugary juices, the skins are discarded. This lack of nutrients has far-reaching consequences. A diet lacking in fiber can lead to an increased risk of chronic diseases. We are essentially running our bodies on empty, deprived of the essential building blocks for health. The body absorbs nutrients far more effectively from whole foods. It's a poor substitute for the real thing. Let's focus on processed meats like bacon, sausages, hot dogs, and deli meats. These are modified to extend shelf life through salting, curing, smoking, or preservatives. In 2015, the World Health Organization classified processed meat as a Group 1 carcinogen like tobacco. Studies showed that consuming processed meat causes colorectal cancer. Chemical preservatives like nitrates and nitrites and high-heat cooking create cancer-causing chemicals. Reduce your risk by choosing unprocessed meats and alternatives like roasted chicken. Understanding the dangers of processed foods is one thing, but breaking free is another. The first step is awareness. Start reading labels and look at the ingredients. Focus on addition, not just subtraction. Focus on what you can add to your diet. Meal prep can be a game changer. Be patient and compassionate with yourself. The goal is progress, not perfection. By focusing on eating real, whole foods, you can break free. You'll improve your physical health and gain control over your well-being. Let's discuss industrial seed oils, a sneaky addition to our food supply. Marketed as heart-healthy, they're in many products. Their rise is recent, impacting our health. Unlike traditional fats, their processing involves high heat and chemical solvents. The issue? High omega-6 content, skewing the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. This imbalance causes chronic inflammation, linked to major chronic diseases. Another major problem with industrial seed oils is their inherent instability. Polyunsaturated fats are highly susceptible to damage from heat, light, and oxygen, a process called oxidation. When these oils oxidize, they create harmful byproducts and toxic compounds damaging to our cells and DNA. The intense heat dramatically accelerates the oxidation process, creating a witch's brew of toxic compounds absorbed into the food you're about to eat. The clear plastic bottles allow light to penetrate, further degrading the oil while it sits on the grocery store shelf. This inherent instability is a critical reason to be wary of these fats. When cell membranes are built from damaged, oxidized fats, their integrity is compromised, making the cells more vulnerable to damage. Industrial seed oils are pervasive. They're the default fat because they're cheap and extend shelf life. You'll be shocked where they turn up: processed foods, dressings, and margarines. Restaurants use them for frying and sauces. Even healthy options are likely cooked in seed oil. Marketing has masked their dangers, replacing traditional fats. Reduce intake by cooking at home with olive, avocado, or coconut oil. Read labels and be vigilant when eating out. Removing this inflammation source is a powerful step for long-term health. The imbalance of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids has a massive impact on our brains. The human brain is about 60% fat, and the types of fat you eat directly influence its structure and function. Omega-3s, particularly DHA, are critical for building healthy cell membranes. An overabundance of omega-6 fats promotes inflammation within the brain, linked to mental and neurological health issues. To protect your brain, shift your fat intake, reduce seed oils and increase omega-3s from fatty fish. By fixing this ratio, you're giving your brain the building blocks it needs to function clearly. We've identified the problem with industrial seed oils. Now let's reclaim healthy traditional fats in our diet. Fats are essential for absorbing vitamins, hormone production, and energy. Choose stable, nutrient-dense, anti-inflammatory fats. For high heat, avocado oil, ghee, and tallow are great. For lower heat, use extra virgin olive oil and coconut oil. For cold applications, use high-quality extra virgin olive oil. Also, get whole food fats from avocados, nuts, and seeds. Eliminating inflammatory seed oils and embracing traditional fats reduces inflammation and supports brain health. We've covered a lot, including added sugars, refined white flour, processed foods, and industrial seed oils. Now you have the power to make different choices. Try eliminating these 4 things from your diet for 1 week. Think of it as an experiment. It's a chance to see how your body responds. Taking this first step can be a profound catalyst for a healthier life. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.